how are you?
Kim Blackwell, I feel like I haven't seen you except for every single day.
I know. I set an alarm for 22 minutes, so this time it's only 22 minutes of me. Thanks so much for sitting down with me. It's the beginning of our 4th week out here, so what we call here in the theatre production week. Tell me how it's been going in the rehearsals for your play, Wild Irish Geese.
I don't even actually know how to describe it because I've had the best summer ever. It is like, I keep thinking of my 10-year-old self who would put on plays in my basement for our neighbors and charge them 25 cents and then go buy penny candies. And this is like what that 10-year-old girl could have never have dreamt would be possible. I have incredible people working on my show that was in my brain that I wrote sometimes in my office, sometimes outside, sometimes in my bed, sometimes in my bathtub. I wrote all of that and now people are bringing it to life. And your ideas are amazing. It's like you hand over your kid and you send off your child to school and you hope it makes friends, and it is. And it's like the nicest thing. Everyone's being so nice to it. The cast is incredibly talented, incredibly kind and supportive. The crew, including Audrey behind the camera, they're amazing. People are supportive. Everyone is doing things. Every day I'm humbled. So humbled.
Yeah, it feels like a really good vibe out here and a really special
Yes.
group. And working really hard because it is an epic play. Tell us about this play that you have written, my friend.
It is an epic play. Yesterday when we were going over some things, the stage manager, the incredible Emily Brown, said, just if everyone can keep track of your props, because I've counted them, there's 256 of them. And I went, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Oh, there's 256 props and there's a goat and there's all kinds of things that are happening that just popped out of my head. It is an epic. The story of the 2,000 Irish refugees that were brought over to this area 200 years ago. And we follow specifically the Sullivan and the Hickey families and all of the other political things that happen around it. And there's vigilantes and there's singing and there's dancing and there's fights and there's burnings and there's laughs and tears, and it's better than cats.
It is epic. I mean, and that's saying something out here, because we've done some epic plays before, starting with the Kevin Blazers, which I think this is very reminiscent of. It reminds me of Kevin Blazers, it reminds me of Winslow's A Derrivore, and it reminds me of Hero of Hunter Street in its epicness.
I've never written anything except for, I've written stories, and then I've written stories that I performed solo, like I just say the stories with my dearest friend Kate Sir. Sometimes she's in some of the stories, but I've never done this.
And so you're an actor, like that's what you started with, right? You didn't start as a writer, you started as an actor,
yeah.
Right? And so you went to York, you got a Bachelor of Fine Arts in theater acting.
Theater performance, yeah.
Theater performance. And then what's the journey, like how, to not Seinfeld it, yada, 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 but from that, however many years ago it was, to like being here today, what's that journey like? What was it?
Being an actor is hard because you don't actually get to act that often. Like, I thought when I got out of theater school, I didn't know it would be so hard to make a living as an actor. And then suddenly, excuse us, while people are building a set.
Yes.
That is the incredible Michelle Chesser and her team, including her father.
Randy.
Randy's out there. They're building our set as we speak for a show for you. So come see it. I didn't know it would be so hard. I'm doing, Tim Hortons commercials or one lines and Flashpoint. And I was scared, but you're not really delving deep into, I had a lot of existential moments of, is this what my life is supposed to be? I went back to school for documentary film, trying to think about, it's real people that interest me so much and the psychology of humanity, which is why I think I became an actor, because it's really about unraveling this mystery of what it means to be a human being and then putting it on stage so we can all talk about it. We can all get to know ourselves a little bit more. And the very confusing things we do and the complicated things. I'm so interested in that. Moving back to Peterborough was a great thing for my career, which sounds counterintuitive, but you build community. I love Toronto and I miss Toronto, but you don't have the same, let's make something, the same time and the same thoughtfulness around it. Coming back to Peterborough was a good thing. I was doing more documentary, but that allowed me to write and to write my own stuff and realizing like I don't want my life to just be someone else choosing me. Like that I go to an audition, they say yes or no, and my life depends on that was starting to get really irritating.
Yeah, I think for actors, probably the most sort of not in control of your own destiny because of the structure. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but that's what I've always sort of, when I've looked at it, because you have to go to the auditions, if there are auditions, and then get chosen from lots and lots of people. When did you start writing, Meg?
I think I was always a writer from the time I was a little girl, but I didn't know I could do that sort of as a career, as I thought I was Anne of Green Gables growing up.
I have heard rumors of this.
Yeah, I thought I was her. And so the Lady of Shalott. So everything was very, like, dramatic, and I would write my diary every day, which was also an Anne of Green Gables diary. And then I would write in university and journal. And then I started writing little short stories. And I remember people saying they were anecdotal and true. And just observations about our own lives, and funny things would happen. And I think doing morning radio, you mine your own life for material every morning. Sometimes because you're too lazy to look for other stuff, and sometimes because it's great. So you start to look at your own life as subject and material, and thinking how funny these moments are. You look forward to things going wrong because it gave you easy access for Thursday morning at 7 a.m. And I started to write them down because I thought they were humorous. And a lot of the writers I look to, the David Sedaris's, Nora Ephron's, they were humorous, observational essays. And I loved that. And I really love connection. And not to, going back for a sec to the acting part, I don't want to poo-poo the world of acting and those that love auditioning. And maybe I'm just not that great an auditioner either. Some people knock it out of the park in auditions.
But I think there's two types of actors I've seen over my career. The ones who can just give over and just keep in it. And then there's ones that at a certain point, they want a bit more control over their own destiny.
Yeah.
And I don't think it makes the system wrong, because the system is what it is. It just means that these people are the ones I tend to find either get out of it or start to build their bag of tricks, and have more self-determinism. And these ones just do that audition their whole lives, and they're fine.
Absolutely. And I think realizing too, as I got older, figuring out what my values really were for me and why I'm loving this experience, is so much of it is about the collaboration and the hang. Like, who are you with? How does that feel? And what thing gets created because all those people are together? Whereas sometimes when I'm just an actor, it is really about me for the beginning of what is this character and what is my work with this character? And I'm not as good at that. I am better when I am can I show you this thing and you tell me what's good or not?
Which is my favorite thing, right? Because I have actors sometimes will say, "Now I want to just talk to you about this," and I'll just sort of listen to them, and then I can tell that some people will see me glaze over and they're like, "You know what? I'm just going to show you something."
Yes.
It's yes, just show me something. Because if we were taking a cultural studies degree in theater, we would talk about it. It would be critical theory, and this is so up on your feet.
Because
it doesn't really live until either the person by themselves or the two actors are there.
That gets me going.
In that moment.
Yeah.
Creating together.
That gets me going. So sometimes I don't think I'm as good at this part that's solo, because I need this part back and forth. So maybe I think I was trying to fit this mold that maybe isn't my skill set, that other people would be better at. Going really deep into the cerebral work, I'm less like that.
Now, I want to ask you just on that cerebral work. It doesn't mean that comedy isn't cerebral.
Oh, it is.
But it's really, I'm sure it is really. But you have really emerged as a comedic improv performer too. Where did that come from? And were you always, I actually know you, so I assume I know the answer to this, but for this sake, were you always funny?
Well, thank you, Kim. I think my family was really funny. And now that my niece is in this play, she just turned 13, little Poppy Alderson, and I'm trying to get them into theater. It's working. She's funny. And I'm like, oh, is that how it happens? Is you just keep infecting? You keep infecting them with your humor. And I think that happened to me growing up, that really dark Irish humor, and not take yourself so seriously. And my folks were really funny, and we were sarcastic, and sometimes we're too sarcastic, but I love that sort of joking way of loving each other. Teasing is a love language for me. The second you and I crossed the boundary when you made fun of me, I'm like, oh, we're there.
I know.
Oh, we love each other.
Don't put that on camera.
That's the best, though. That's when I know I'm really emotionally safe, is when you can tease each other and know it's from love. M. John Kennedy, we did improv in high school together for a minute, but that wasn't a big focus. And then when I went to university, I had really great experiences at York, but humor was not a part of it. It was very serious. We all took ourselves very seriously. And everybody who was comedic either got kicked out or dropped out. It was such a weird idea that comedians don't make it, when those are some of the people who are doing the best right now.
Well, exactly. And it's actually technically, I think comedy, I always just say this, comedy and farce are like baking. It's so precise. Whereas drama, it's more like making a spaghetti sauce. You can throw a lot of things in.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. You guys have to be like watching you and Linda, Cash, who's your longtime collaborator around improv, and I know you have lots of others too, but watching you do a comedy show, I think it was in January in Peterborough, the precision of the joke landing is wild. So you were writing all this time, journaling, and then the Veranda Society kind of emerges out of that with the family and your own stories. Yes?
Yeah, and I think, it's so funny. I have these, before my dad died, he was passing away, and my sisters and I made a cassette tape, old school, of like advice and life stuff. And I remember him saying on the tape, and I listened to it around Christmas, he said, I don't know, I'm not, just because I'm in my final stages, I'm not a prophet. Like, I don't know what will happen in your life. And I don't know if you're gonna make it big. I have a feeling you should, he said. And he said, I know I'm biased, but he said, maybe think about doing something that you can have in your back pocket, like the Hal Holbrook's doing the Mark Twain Tonight, and he said, because something that you can remount that gives you creative energy. And when we were doing the show at Christmas, that's what this is. It's stories that are personal, that all parts of it give me joy, and you can keep remounting and changing, but the shape is there. Oh, maybe he was right. So there was obviously something 20 some odd years ago, before my dad died, that I was doing that was a thread through it all somehow. And the writers in my family, like my uncle Claire Galvin was a writer, and he wrote the book The Holy Land, which was about all of this Irish stuff, and Ennismore being, the Irish Holy Land. And so I think that there was obviously some kind of calling within there. Something was, I whispered over my cradle, or is in the DNA or something.
And when when we approached you and wanted you to do a play about the 200th commemoration of the Peter Robinson settlers who came in the summer of 1825 to this area. So there'd been a first group that had come to the Ottawa Valley in 1823. They had 500, but this was a really large immigration strategy for the British government. What did you start with? How did you start?
Well, Kim, I didn't.
Well, I would say you maybe didn't start the writing right away, but you certainly started the research.
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, and this community, again, we did a reminiscence. What year was that? 2021?
No.
22.
It might have been even as late as 23.
Okay.
22 or 23 that November. And 75 people came to the Ennismore Community Center on a Saturday morning.
And that was also one of the ones where we're sitting there, and this woman said, "You're related to Claire Galvin." I said, "Yeah, but Galvin's he's your cousin." And I was like, of course that would happen today. Of course, I've never met him, of course. That's so Ennismore, or so like Irish. But everyone brought me materials, and they brought finger bins full of huge books, and people would stop by and photocopy stuff and drop stuff off on my doorstep, and people wanted me to succeed.
Well, Mary Smith, Dennis Carter Edwards, they just embraced you, that what has now become that 9-ship steering committee.
Yeah.
They so embraced you, and they shepherded you to people that they knew, right?
They introduced me to the folks in Ireland, and then when I went over to Ireland, the folks in Ireland, Amanda Slattery and Christy Roach, they all helped me and drove me around and introduced me to people, and there was nothing in it for any of these people other than to be kind and to help me succeed and to, yes, tell the story. But even Mary Smith and Dennis Carter Edwards, like, they're not Robinson settlers, they're just awesome people. And they want good things for other people, and they want history to still have a voice, and they wanted me to help tell that, and I cannot believe that kindness.
How did you go from, because you had so much research, like very impressive the research that you've done, how did you go from that to the beginnings of play?
I struggled a lot. You helped me a lot. And I struggled a lot to figure out how to get all that history distilled, and some of the first writings that I did share with you and some I didn't were so dense. They were a nice history piece that I could submit as a good essay to Trent, but they weren't entertaining in a theatrical way. And so it took me a little while to figure out how to have real people talk to each other with bits of history in it. And I had to start watching how we have conversations about what's happening in the States, or what are we talking about tariffs. And that's real pieces of what will become history by real people talking about them in their real lives, of people saying like, can you freaking believe that no frills cost this much? Okay, so how do I take that and put it in 1825? Because people are people are people are people. That we still talk about the price of tax, we talk about the cost of meat, how hard it is to stay alive. They talked about that then, they talked about it 200 years before that. So how do I take those same essence of humans and put it in another place? And once I kind of got my mind around that, it became a little easier, and these people started to become my friends. Like, I would be writing, and I remember writing this fight scene, spoiler, between a husband and wife. Spoiler, shocking, I know. It never happens. And between John and Johanna, and I was in tears. I'm writing it, and I'm having their voices come out of me, and I'm like, she would never say that. And I'm deleting it. I'm like, she would never? She's not real, but she is now. Like, she's real to me. Like, that's not the way she'd respond.
And you put yourself in the play.
I did.
So you wrote this character. Tell us about this character,
Yeah.
what you've written for yourself in the play, and why.
Well, nepotism. Initially, I wasn't thinking of being in it, because I was actually nervous of that. I thought it looked like I was being, the optics of it would be too, I would be afraid of looking arrogant. So I don't think I am, and I don't want that perception. And then I got over that and thought, well, if people think that, that's okay. I want to be a part of this. I want to be a part of my baby's life. And I really love the audience. I love breaking the fourth wall. I love communicating. Why would I miss this? I love this. I wanted the Shanachie, which is an Irish storyteller. I wanted that to help. I just love that trope, and it's very veranda society, and it's very much what I like to do. And I thought, well, that kind of makes sense. And then you were generous and said, anyway, you're like, well, you're going to be in it. And I'm like, I don't know. You're like, yeah, okay, anyway. Feels now like I'm not so worried about that piece. I am more generously here to just give and absorb it all. I get to be a part of it, but also not control it, which is so nice. I love going, here, Kim. It's great. Off you go.
But I think it seems so right for you to have been so embraced by so many parts of the community who has a stake in this story. But you were embraced both here and there, and you have been your whole life in this community. You are very, very well regarded, and I would easily say beloved. And you are in some ways capturing a lot of the stories of this community, and have for a long time. I know you do master of ceremonies, and of course you're on the radio. And so it seems right that in a play that commemorates these people coming over, that you are the one who is the narrator storyteller. I wanted to just quickly ask too about, this land was not uninhabited when they arrived, and we wanted to make sure that piece was well represented.
Yeah, that was something that I was quite afraid of looking at when we started, because I didn't know how to do it, and I was frightened of saying something wrong or hurting someone's feelings inadvertently. Writing a story that isn't mine to write, and telling a settler story right now felt really difficult, which also stymied me when we started. And then when I realized, no, the essence of it is in everyone's story, and that perhaps this can be a piece towards reconciliation. Again, Mary Smith introduced me to so many of her friends, the chief of Alderville and at Hiawatha and Curve Lake, and people were so generous. And then Patty Shaughnessy, who is in the play, and she's fabulous, but she's incredible, and she's become a dear friend, but she was so helpful in helping me not be so precious and challenging me to not be precious. And we did joke. She said, oh, for God's sakes, just be braver with it. And I said, yeah, if I get canceled, I'm coming for you, Patty Shaughnessy. But she's so interesting because she has a foot in both camps. She's a member of Curve Lake, and she's also a member of the Robinson Immigrants. And so she has this really interesting, very intelligent perspective and balanced, grounded perspective. And that has been very collaborative, like literally rewriting scenes up until last week to try to get it as right as possible and how it feels. It's such an amazing learning experience. I hope that people who come to see it will be thoughtful about it and we tried to address that complicated and messy side of things, that this land was occupied and what happened was not okay. Celebrate something as you commemorate and remember and reconcile something at the same time.
Yeah, and I think what's so interesting is that the Irish were colonized by the British, and then the British came in and colonized, and the Irish were at the start of that, escaping their very terrible struggles.
Yeah, and you don't think about, I think when you're dying and coming to another place, you don't think about the political climate. You're just trying to survive, and you don't think about, well, whose land might this have been? And now we do.
And I think on a continuum around immigration, that the play, it is a look back, of course, but I think we look forward really beautifully around immigration is why we're all here.
Yeah.
And there are people arriving daily to Canada and become incredible parts of what is this country and these communities. But it's not simple.
It's not simple. It is complicated. And we don't know how to solve all of those problems. And when we take them out of the personal, they get more complicated in a way. Or we can get more black and white, if I may, actually. We can go, this is right, this is wrong, too many of this, less of that, blah, 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 blah. When you make it personal, yeah, it gets complicated, but it gets rich. And that is where real humanity lives. Because we can literally give each other donations of blood. All across the world, we are that connected. So we're not all that different.
I think I'm going to stop it there. First of all, we're going to go into rehearsal, and we've got about 8 days until opening, which is really exciting. And I'm just grateful you took a little bit of time with me, and I'm grateful for the British script and work with you every time I get to.
You are brilliant. You are a genius. I do not know how you keep all of the things in your head that you keep in your head. And you, as the teacher of my baby, you have done me so proud.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's been a pleasure so far, and I know it will continue to be a pleasure.
Come see our show, Wild Irish Geese, 4th Line Theatre. It's worth it.